From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, this is a Headache Soul production. Welcome to Just the Tip-Sters, America's favorite true crime podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Morgan. With me today is my handsome and talented co-host, Joshua Schrodinger's douchebag Bevan. I couldn't stop laughing. Schrodinger's douchebag.
Okay, so
its definition is a noun.
Uh-huh.
A guy who says offensive things and decides whether he's kidding or not based on people's reactions.
Nice. Oh my god.
You are the definition of Schrodinger's douchebag.
I'm kidding, or I'm not.
Or I'm not.
At the same time.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. If someone starts to cry, you're like, I was just kidding.
I was kidding. Yeah, I mean, I've done that. Most of the time I own up anyway, though.
I felt right. Oh, it's pretty clear on your face, but still. I thought this is such a great fucking...
Oh my god, that's awesome.
Yeah. You are Schrodinger's douchebag, my friend.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I liked it a lot.
Yes.
Now just imagine you like wearing a cat suit. You're Schrodinger's cat douchebag.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Perfect.
you. That's you. I'm just saying.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah, good. All right.
That's me.
Yeah, that's you. So I want to say thank you to Malaysia for putting us back on the Apple charts in Malaysia. You're hilarious. We are on and then off and then on and then off, but I am grateful, Malaysia. Thank you.
Wait, what? I don't even know. What language do they speak in Malaysia? What?
Malaysian? I don't know.
Is it?
I barely speak English. Why do you ask me these things?
Because I need to learn the language for when we do our world
and then
tour.
You can say "Neho Ma" or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not Malaysian, but whatever. I will find out for you so that you're able to say hello. At least you can say hello, and I'll just be over there, the white person in English, barely speaking English.
I need to be able to
communicate to your girls.
Yeah, exactly.
Your crew.
Exactly.
Your cougar crew. 2Ks.
I gotta at least have a few pickup lines in every language.
Got it. Like, hello, my name is Joshua. I am known as Schrodinger's douchebag.
Perfect.
If you find that amusing, I was kidding.
I was kidding.
And if you do not, I was still kidding.
I was kidding.
But yeah. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing right there. So I sent Joshua a couple of screenshots from the Meetup group, the Meetup app.
No.
Yeah. I don't think I do well with apps, even the ones that are supposed to just be like to meet friends. So I joined Meetup and I've had a lovely experience since the end of last fall, with a widows and widowers group. And we meet once a month for dinner somewhere in Santa Clarita. And it's been really nice. And one guy, let's just call him David, because that's his name, slid up into my DMs and said, "Hi, Melissa, I have some questions. Can you help me?" And I was like, how can I help you? Because I don't know what the fuck, you know. And he said, like looking for some fun places around town or something. And I was like, huh. And then he said, do you know of any, swingers clubs? Swingers clubs. Yeah. And I laughed really hard and said, yeah, why don't you try Acton and Agua Dulce, which is, we have discussed,
It's, yeah. Listen, you say that it's out there, but it's here too. I mean,
says you. I don't know it.
We've got a good population.
Why are you trying to pimp this out? Do you work for the Chamber of Commerce or the Welcome Wagon? You're trying to get more swingers into Santa Clarita.
Yeah. Come to Santa Clarita, California.
I don't think it's.
And I'll come and welcome you.
Yeah. Oh boy. I don't know.
I'll give you the tour.
No.
Come on out
of your own genitals. Here's the tour below the waist of all the swingers. No, sir, I don't want to know about this. So anyway, I looked up this kid's profile and he's in his early 20s or something. I'm like, why do you need swingers? Go out to a bar. And he's, cute. He's not like Quasimodo or something. So I don't get it. But why would you hit up an old widow and ask for information on swingers?
Well, I'm kind of confused. Since you're a widow, aren't swingers like married people that are? Well,
yes, usually, or coupled up, but they have, there has to be like a third or a fourth or
Right.
whatever, and maybe those
But
people aren't.
it doesn't seem like you'd be in that demographic.
You're right, I'm not.
I mean, other than the fact that I know you and you're not.
Right. Right.
but but if I were going to profile somebody, I would say,
Because you're smart, and I don't believe young
oh,
David.
yeah, he also didn't quite like align his verbs with his attempt,
Yes.
so it wasn't.
Yeah, I sent the screenshots to Joshua, who sent back some redlined, things like, I don't know that English is his first
I don't think so.
language. And yeah, he didn't seem to care that much about grammar. And I really didn't care
Right.
about grammar, because I thought, son, why? Why are you bothering me
Right.
with your
Yeah.
bullshit? I just sent back a bunch of laughing emojis. So this is going to sound like it's not going to make sense, but it does all tie together, I promise you. This may not come out till the beginning of March, but February is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it is becoming more and more important to me as time goes on. And I've always, felt it was important, but since Mark died, I've gone through really odd times, swings of emotions and depression and um, not actively wanting to do anything to hasten my departure. But many times I would go to bed and go like, you know what, if I don't wake up tomorrow, everything's fine. My dog will be taken care of, and my best friend Angela knows where all my important papers are, and I wouldn't want to leave her with this mess, but she'll take care of it because she is that person who is a boss. And it was then, suggested perhaps I take, an antidepressant, and I never wanted to take a pill, never wanted to do that. And I tried a couple that were not true SSRIs, that were just like anti-anxiety meds, and they didn't really do anything. And then a true antidepressant has made a huge difference. And yeah, I don't want to be that person that has to take something, but I also realized 2.5 years after Mark died, and I didn't start taking them for quite a while. It was a long time, and I thought, okay, I got this. I'm going to be okay. But it comes back, I guess, later sometimes, maybe being numb wore off, maybe, and I was feeling more.
Sure.
So taking an antidepressant has been, it's, I don't want to say it's been a lifesaver. I don't want to make it sound that dramatic, but it's definitely been a life enhancer. I am grateful. I also struggle with, I don't want to take this. I don't want to take this the rest of my life. And my sweet, amazing grief counselor says, this is the plan for now. We
Okay.
take this now, and then, until you are strong enough and have the tools to handle things. And I will also give you an insight as to something that happened. I ran out of them and didn't care about getting them refilled in a big hurry,
Okay.
and spent about 8 days straight sobbing, and over the craziest things, like very small things, and not like Demi Moore in Ghost crying, but sobbing to where I felt like I couldn't breathe and I was underwater. And then it dawned on me, hey, you know what? I haven't taken my antidepressant for a while, and I got them refilled. And I don't care if it's somatic, if it just,
Sure.
2 to 3 days later, I felt a difference. And
That's
I've had
good.
friends who told me that, and I thought, well, that's crazy. But maybe my chemistry is so off that something like that helps is definitely what I needed. And things that have happened since then that would have, put me
Right.
in a ball crying, and I haven't even cried. So, and this is a blessing, because 30 years ago when my mom died, she was like Mark, my favorite person on earth. She was my best friend. And when she died, it was just, I'm an only child. She's an only child. It was just the two of us. And I had many friends who were like, you should take an antidepressant because I don't know how you're going to survive your mom die. And I was like, okay. So I took Prozac for a year and then realized, you know what? I don't feel bad, but I also don't feel good. I don't feel anything. So I stopped taking it and haven't taken one until Mark died. So I didn't want to not feel. I'm a very feeling person,
Sure.
and I need that, I think, to live, to feel. So what I'm on now, is apparently a good balance because I can still feel, but the lows aren't so low that they devastate me.
Good. That's
So
good.
yeah, that it's a huge help, and I'm very grateful. So, February being mental health month. So two people in this story, which is a true life story that is fascinating to me. One succeeded in taking his life, and I'm still angry at him for that selfish act. And the other one attempted, but did not succeed. But now he is missing in what is, considered a very uncomfortable, unsolved case. But I had no idea. Well, first, I want to say this episode is sponsored by Graveline Tours, and I am grateful to them. We are at some point going to be able to go on the Black Dahlia tour if it doesn't rain and we don't get rained out. If you go to graveline.rip and you book any of their tours, if you're in the LA area, you can get 40% off if you put Tipster 40 in the promo code. And I think you would love every single tour that they have. Joshua and I went on the Death Becomes Her tour, and then we also went on the Manson Family Murders tour, and they're putting up new information all the time. Amazing old pictures of this artist who sketched Charles Manson during the trial, and I mean, phenomenal. And she's surrounded by all of the Manson girls.
Right.
It's an amazing picture, a beautiful black and white picture. If you're not following Graveline on Instagram, I suggest you do so because you'll find out new stuff that I've never heard of. And I like to think I know a lot. And sometimes I feel like I'm just a rookie with the stuff that they find out. So I'm going to say that this story came to us because my sweet friend Daniel got me this hilarious book on sale at Barnes & Noble called Unsolved Deaths, Strange Deaths and Mysterious Disappearances by Charles Phillips. And I opened it up immediately, and the first thing I saw was, I guess it's the mysterious death or who killed Dr. Gonzo. So I am a very surface fan of Hunter S. Thompson. And this is coming from a woman who has a sign on her podcast room door that is a quote from Hunter S. Thompson that is true and painful at the same time. The radio business is a cruel and shallow money trench, a long plastic hallway where thieves and pimps run free and good men die like dogs. There's also a negative side. And the poetry of Hunter S. Thompson's writing is something I appreciate so very much. I never related to it because I really didn't understand, drug-fueled gonzo journalism, but I could appreciate his art. And I appreciate Hunter S. Thompson's art the same way I appreciate like the Beatles. I get their contribution. It may not be, my style or something for me, but I can tell you most men I know think Hunter S. Thompson is the shit. I think it's a very male.
Oh, is it a dude thing?
I think so. I don't know a lot of women who are like, gosh, I can't wait to, and that's also men of a specific age. I mean, probably more baby boomers, maybe some, what are they, Gen Xers, I guess, some people in that category. And I'm sure there's new people finding out about him all the time, but his alter ego, Raoul Duke, was, a gonzo journalist, and it was, him. And so what started, with Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas started as a 2-part series that was published in Rolling Stone, where he had been sent by Rolling Stone magazine to cover the Mint 400, which is like a desert race or something. And I did not know that my beloved boyfriend, Benicio del Toro, who played Dr. Gonzo, who was an actual person, Oscar Zeta Acosta, a real person who was his friend, who was an attorney, unlike fictionalized in the movie directed by Terry Gilliam. He was not a 300-pound Samoan. He was a 250-pound Chicano.
Yeah.
And what a history Oscar Zeta had. What a fascinating life, and what a beautiful writer he was in his own right. And I think these two souls recognized each other. You know, I think Hunter Thompson and Oscar Acosta were like, we understand each other is weird,
Right.
you know, and I think they were soulmates. I really do. And that doesn't always mean things went perfectly, because they didn't, but they never. I used to say, when people would talk about being married and being married a long time, I would say love is a choice. You wake up every day and you choose to love that person. You may not like them that day, but you always love them. And
Yeah.
I think Oscar and Hunter didn't always like each other, but they loved each other very much, and you
Right.
can tell. And I'm still angry at Hunter Thompson for taking his own life. And I'm grateful that Oscar Acosta didn't succeed the first time he tried, when he was very depressed. I'm sad that he is missing now, that someone else probably took his life, but it's still such a fascinating story. So I watched Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas again,
Okay.
and again, it was like, it's Terry Gilliam, who I love,
Right.
great director, amazing piece of cinema. Don't really care,
Okay.
just like, don't really get drug fueled stuff. Don't
Okay.
relate, trying hard to let go of whatever I'm thinking, and like just go along for the journey. And cinematically, it's fascinating. Some of the camera work, especially when they're driving in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They're driving from LA to Las Vegas to
Mm-hmm.
cover this, race. And I don't, sometimes I'm not like especially visual. I'm much more auditory. But sometimes when you have a shot like up from under, with Benicio del Toro driving with his, shirt open, which by the way, he gained 45 pounds to play Oscar Acosta.
Oh, that's not a fat suit?
Nope. He
Wow.
gained 45
I
pounds.
never knew that.
This is,
That's
I'm not like,
I
I
gained another
get,
level of respect.
yeah. I mean, he's
Wow.
my boyfriend, but that's just because I
I know.
like big, big, tall brown dudes. I have such respect for he and Johnny Depp. Johnny
Mm-hmm.
Depp let Hunter Thompson shave his head in his kitchen.
No.
I was like, wow, because, Hunter Thompson has a very unique hair pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And he let Hunter Thompson cut his hair. And when you're, a young, handsome dude in, 1998,
Oh
like
yeah.
Johnny Depp was, and he had pretty hair. It's letting him, shave his head.
Mm.
I just had a lot more respect for he and for Benicio del Toro, gaining 45 pounds and letting somebody shave your head for these roles. Uh, Pretty amazing.
No.
Pretty amazing, in my mind. And when I say soulmates, I think Johnny Depp was maybe soulmate adjacent to Hunter Thompson.
Yeah.
I think he encompassed the personality, and maybe that's because he's a great actor, or because he recognized another weird soul in himself.
Sure.
And what's so interesting to me is they're both boys from Kentucky.
Oh.
Yeah, I wonder
Okay.
if that had anything to do with it. Johnny Depp was born in Owensboro, Kentucky, and Hunter S. Thompson was born in Louisville, Kentucky. So not far apart. There was still like a Gonzo Fest for many years after Hunter died. It was about 10 years after Hunter killed himself. They did it once a year, Gonzo Fest, celebrating everything. It was like a weekend fest of like
Mm.
music, poetry,
Cool.
weird shit, celebrating Hunter. So it's fascinating that both of these guys are from, Kentucky. And I feel like a personality as big as Hunter S. Thompson needs people around him like that. Like, you can't just be regular everyday Joe.
Sure.
You got to be a weirdo. And I think
Yeah.
Johnny Depp was the perfect weirdo to play him. So Bill Murray and Peter Boyle
Mm-hmm.
did Where the Buffaloes Roam, which is
Mm-hmm.
actually based on Oscar Acosta's book. And more, except that Peter Boyle is a Hungarian attorney named Laszlo,
Hmm.
as opposed to, I don't know why they changed it. Maybe they were afraid because Oscar was an attorney, he would sue, which we're going to get into, which is pretty fascinating. He was upset. They turned this 2-part Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas into a book. And he was upset when he got a copy of the book because Hunter S. Thompson called him a 300-pound Samoan. And he's
Right.
like, I don't care that you say I am a drug-addled maniac because that's true. That part's not a problem.
Oh.
I am upset that you totally whitewashed or brownwashed my
Changed
heritage.
my,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So they actually said, well, it's too late now. The book's in print, but everything after that was printed with a black and white photo on the back cover of the two of them sitting at a bar in Las Vegas with like shot glasses in front of them. And, to show that, I guess, that he was not a 300-pound Samoan.
Huh.
So yeah, it's interesting, the legalities,
Wow.
So while this is a combination story, I really want it to be about Oscar Acosta because I sure the fuck didn't know.
Mm.
I did not know who this man was, how important he was to Los Angeles,
Yeah.
to the Chicano movement,
Yeah.
to I mean, what a fascinating guy. So here we go. Oscar Acosta, was born in Texas, and then his family moved to the San Joaquin Valley. And his mom, was like, we need to assimilate. His sister, Nita, was like, short of bathing in Clorox, everything in our life was white oriented.
Mm.
Assimilate or you'll be nothing.
Okay.
And in high school in Riverbank, which is a very kind of a small town in California's Central Coast, not far from where Mark's parents ended up settling in Modesto. Oscar played football. He dated a very popular white girl, and he was president of his junior class. After he graduated high school, he joined the Air Force, and he was stationed in Panama. He became a Baptist preacher,
Hmm.
and he called himself the Mexican Billy Graham.
Nice.
Yeah. And he was delivering sermons at a leprosy settlement, and then he began to doubt his faith, and he began writing a letter of resignation to Jesus.
Oh, wow.
And he said, you know what? It wasn't a natural relationship. You're going to have to admit that. So after he, resigned his faith, he really, everything about him, he began to bring into question. And when he got out of the service, he attempted suicide. And I was really grateful that he did not succeed because what a loss it would have been. So he's still trying to find himself, and he marries a white woman. They have a son, Marco, and Marco is still living in the Bay Area and is trying to have a film made of his father's writing. And Oscar wrote 2 books, and after the publication of his second book is when he went missing after a fishing trip in Mexico. So I'm not waiting till the end to let you know he's gone. I'm letting you know now. And I don't expect anyone to have information about, but, if you do, I mean, it's heartbreaking because he was so important. He was
Yeah.
this guy, he goes to college at San Francisco State University. He studies creative writing because I think that's where his soul was. He works as a copy boy at the San Francisco Examiner. He writes short stories, poetry, a novel, and then he decides to go to law school, and he enrolls at San Francisco Law School, and he passes the bar in 1966. And what does he do? He takes a job at the East Oakland Legal Aid Society,
Mm.
Helping those who cannot afford, a private practice attorney.
Cool.
I mean, this is a guy who really wanted to, after his life of being raised, you need to assimilate, did pretty much everything he could to show his independence and his uniqueness,
Mm.
and wanted everyone of any Hispanic race to show who they were, to be who they were born to be.
Beautiful.
So he ends up moving to Los Angeles after he takes like a road trip, and he ends up helping defend the East Side 13. It was they were charged with involvement in the East LA walkouts, where 20,000 students walked out of public high schools to protest the inequities in the education system. He also ended up defending the Biltmore Six, which it's 6 people who were accused of setting fires at the Biltmore Hotel in 1969 during a visit from then Governor Ronald Reagan. And it was at that time that he and Hunter S. Thompson kind of are introduced by a mutual friend. And it's, I think it was 1970 that Rolling Stone asked Hunter Thompson to cover the Mint 400. And he's like, I know the perfect companion, Oscar Acosta.
Cool.
So Oscar had by then really developed a fascinating portrait of himself. He would show up in court barefoot. Sometimes he's on acid, and sometimes he would carry a pistol. Yeah. I mean, I thought this was fascinating. In 1970, he ran for LA County Sheriff, and his pledge was to dismantle the sheriff's department.
Nice.
And he got 500,000 votes.
Wow.
He came in second.
Wow.
I mean, I don't even know.
That's awesome.
I know. It makes you think like, and you weren't even here in 1970, and I was a little kid, living in Kentucky, but it makes you think, wow, what would it have been like to be here?
Sure.
In those times? It was like, so after they have this, he and Hunter Thompson have this, bizarre trip to Las Vegas. Hunter then, Fear and Loathing turns into a book. And Oscar says, I was so upset and bothered by the fact that he described me as a 300-pound Samoan instead of a 250-pound Chicano lawyer.
Right.
And Hunter Thompson said, I was trying to protect him from the wrath of the LA cops and the whole California legal establishment that he was constantly at war with. I just think it's so funny. Now, I will say at some point, Oscar sues Hunter and says, you took exact verbatim pieces of dialogue from Fear and Loathing that you got from a tape of us conversations as we were on our way to Vegas and while we were in Vegas. And at the time, Hunter describes this as a gonzo experiment.
Sure.
And he's, very influenced by Norman Mailer and Tom Wolfe. It's like, were you as a and you know this, you journalism major, you wanted to be a journalist. You put yourself in the middle of the story. And I think that wasn't done very much before then.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, yeah, it's people like that were kind of experimenting with it, and I think a lot of people were experimenting with being in the story as a journalist, and then but still telling the kind of factual side of the story, whereas Hunter S. Thompson was more of a he was telling the more creative side.
Right.
He wanted the art end of it.
Right.
Not necessarily the facts, the truth, as much as it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a novel, like and yeah, I'm kind of confused though. Why Acosta would sue if he wasn't it apparent that he was on the record? I mean, that's kind of, I wonder how all that went down.
He said, you've erased my identity and you've stolen my soul. He took the best lines that I had and he used me and he wrung me dry for material.
Ouch. Well, that doesn't sound like something you'd say about a lover, about
a soulmate.
A soulmate, yeah.
They reconcile.
Yeah. Okay.
They reconcile.
Yeah.
Honestly, it sounds to me butthurt.
Yeah.
And He sued for 50% profit of Fear and Loathing, the book.
Okay.
And he's already gone by the time the movie is made.
Okay.
Which, by the way, Hunter Thompson is in the movie. He's sitting at a table at that weird circus thing, and the line is like, "I look at me," and Johnny Depp looks back, and there's Hunter Thompson.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, so many cameos. Lyle Lovett.
Oh yeah.
I mean, as like a weird Barker. I mean, it's crazy the number of people in that movie. Penn Jillette.
Okay.
Wearing a cowboy hat. It's like the craziest. It's not, it's queer. That movie is just so, it's a drug fueled over the top. Whatever.
Sure. And I think Terry Gilliam is the only one that could have done it.
Absolutely. And there was a director, Alex, I started to say Croft, I'm not sure. Anyway, he quit over creative differences, and Terry Gilliam picked it back up.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't think anyone else could have done it either. And I'm a huge fan of Terry Gilliam's work. I'm okay with suspending my disbelief.
Sure.
I just found that almost like it was too long. And it was, a full sensory assault, which what you're kind of getting.
Sure.
But it took too long of the weird shit to get to what I thought was the heart and the meat of the story. Because Hunter Thompson's writing is poetic and beautiful.
Yeah. And maybe I guess that's, I'm in the other spot where I've watched that movie, I don't know how many times, just letting
it wash over.
Yeah. Letting the poetry of the visual poetry happen.
Yeah. I don't like the visual poetry. I like the written poetry.
I hear it. And I also probably smoked a little bit more pot than you did.
Probably a little bit more, because I have not. So yeah. Hopefully you didn't take mescaline.
Oh my God.
Or cocaine or ether. Did you ether yourself?
The whole suitcase full of drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, none of those ones.
Okay, good. Yeah. Cause I was like, and Oscar Acosta said he took acid for the first time with Hunter Thompson. Here's my favorite part: accidentally. So, fair. Maybe Hunter said, "Here, put this in your mouth," or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's, accidentally. Yeah. So Oscar, also I'm going to say this: drugs can be alternately helpful if they're maybe monitored or dispensed correctly to people with, brain chemistry issues. And they can also exacerbate things and make make it a lot worse.
Absolutely.
Like, would you ever in your life think you would hear that people with trauma and even migraines have medically been given ketamine?
Yeah. No,
I didn't think that would happen in my life.
No. So many of the things that me or my peers or whatever partied with,
right?
Like just for, let's check out of this world because we're doing this for funsies,
right?
Are now in the experimental phases or even a little bit past the experimental phases. They're becoming commonplace of, let's do this smaller dose,
right,
on a more regular basis,
right? Micro dosing,
and I don't know really what that means.
I know,
because you're going to compare it to overdosing,
right?
Like,
exactly.
Like, yeah, when I ate mushrooms, it was way too much mushrooms, but that. Let's have just a little bit of mushroom, a little bit of psilocybin,
right?
Pills or however they take them.
Right.
Now.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah. So, yeah, all of that stuff, and I'm imagining we're gonna get to acid in that same vein.
Probably.
I mean, people are pushing for that because it's, that's because there are people that are saying, it's in the right dosage, in the right way, it can be more helpful,
right?
And a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, people are talking about all kinds of other psychedelics, in that like healing vein,
right?
And
Yeah, maybe, Hunter Thompson was onto something.
I I don't know that there's a maybe there. I think he was onto something. I don't know what it exactly was.
Right. That's
and
true.
and I
Yeah.
don't know that he did
Yeah,
either.
right.
But
Maybe he was unaware
sure.
of what, like what he was like the forefather of.
Sure.
But the thing that, watching that movie again is like I had a different view knowing what I knew about Oscar Acosta. I'm like, this character who was just
Mhm.
his kind of wingman, who
Yeah.
was this like out of control, drug-addled maniac.
Mhm.
Do you remember the scene where he calls him at his office and Oscar Acosta's sitting in his office wearing a tie
Okay.
and there are posters behind him. There's Che Guevara and
Okay.
yeah, he's in his office and he goes, "Oh, did you get that telegram that I sent to the
Okay.
hotel?" And he goes, "I set up a room for you at the Riviera. It's all set up." So this is after they have trashed, the first hotel room. And they
And
go,
he's
remember the
going,
one that's like
sure.
pink?
Yeah.
It's like all pink.
Yeah.
So that was very important to Benicio del Toro because the posters of he felt that Oscar Acosta was almost invisible. I mean, he
Mhm.
was a big part of the film and a big part of the
Sure.
story, but that he could be another amped up version of like the fact that Hunter Thompson's alter ego is Raoul Duke.
Mhm.
He could be, Dr. Gonzo could be an amped up version of someone, but maybe not even a real person
Sure.
because Hunter Thompson's imagination is so vivid.
Right.
So the fact that he was this real person who had such a great history and was an
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, he was up. He said he felt like that one scene was helpful, but there needed to be more about, you know, Oscar in the film.
Cool.
And I get it. I mean, I know he feels that because he is Hispanic.
Mhm.
It's like he got to
Right.
play. So, there was where the Buffaloes roam was sort of, well, here's Peter Boyle playing a Hungarian
Right.
attorney, whatever. But yeah, talk about whitewashed, But
But he's so good at it too.
yeah,
It's a totally different. They're
yes,
totally different styles.
right,
Obviously, I don't
absolutely.
even know who directed that one, but
I don't either.
it's more mainstream comedy, I guess, or something. They
Yeah,
both just play it kind of normalish and
yeah,
kind of funny, but there's Bill Murray and Peter Boyle are so good.
they
I think
are.
they're both amazing in general, but in that movie they're just so good together and
I
they're
think
just
so
so yeah.
too. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a very, very different telling
Yeah.
of their friendship and experiences, but it's still well done and well acted. And those two guys are magnificent.
Yeah.
It's very, very
Yeah.
different. And it's, yeah. Again, though, I feel like how much did you need? Maybe because Peter Boyle was the perfect person to do. I don't know. It's like how much do you need to
Yeah.
change? How much do you need to change a story? But I think
Sure.
that wouldn't be as common today.
Yeah, I think today we would find a brown actor that
Yes.
was just as many chops as Peter
Right.
Boyle
Right.
or whatever white actor was up for the part. You
Right.
find somebody who looks more like yeah, or not. I don't
Or
know.
not. I do feel like Bill Murray, I'm going to say this and I don't want to sound shitty. Johnny Depp was terrific, but he was almost too pretty
Hmm,
to be, Hunter
sure.
Thompson was gaunt and thin and looked way older than his age because he aged very young, probably
Sure.
due to a hard life. Bill Murray was a more encompassed what Hunter Thompson looked like. I feel like Johnny Depp was the Hollywoodization of it,
Sure.
and he dissolved into the role. You don't, unless you are thinking that's Johnny Depp, you wouldn't really think that's Johnny
Right,
Depp. He
right.
did, and don't get me wrong. And I'm not like a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of his acting. I think he's a weirdo fucking person.
Right.
But his acting cannot be,
Yeah.
I would never argue that he is a really great actor. And he was fucking terrific.
Yeah.
I sometimes forgot that he wasn't Hunter Thompson.
Yeah.
And he's still, pretty.
Yeah.
you know?
Sure.
And he and Benicio del Toro, and I'm going to say his name 75 different ways.
I was wondering how many.
Benicio, Benny. I'm just going to call him Benny because I can never know if I'm right. So Benny del Toro and the way they bent their bodies during, like when you're trying to walk when you're stoned. How on earth did they even get their knees to do that? And it wasn't CGI. It was,
the carpet is not, it's lava or something.
Yeah.
They're trying to walk.
But they're bending in ways I have never seen. Both of them. I mean, talk about committed.
Yeah.
And then here's, Benny with 45 extra pounds on him.
Yeah, sure.
And still, keeping his body kind of crazy drug loose.
Yeah.
It is a fascinating thing to watch. I will tell you that. So Oscar ends up back in Texas to just a short trip. And then he wanders across the border into Juarez. And he's like, this is starting to feel familiar to me. And people in Juarez don't know what to do with this guy who's wearing a Pendleton shirt and speaks broken Spanish. And he's lost his wallet, so he can't identify himself. So he, of course, ends up in trouble and he ends up in a jail cell. And he's trying to explain to a judge, look, I'm an attorney, and he's trying to talk to a border guard and say, look, I'm an American. I was born in Texas. And they're like, sure you are. But these things sort of inform who he becomes when he wants to help, people of different ethnicities get their way through the legal system. He's, in 1968, he's in Texas and going back and forth between Texas and Mexico. And he said, it dawns on me, I am neither a Mexican nor an American. I am neither a Catholic nor a Protestant. I am a Chicano by ancestry, and I am a brown buffalo by choice. And I wondered, where did he get the brown buffalo part? And he gets that because he said the buffalo was hunted by both cowboys and Indians.
Oh, wow.
Interesting, huh?
Okay.
Yeah. I was like, that's interesting. I was like, is he describing like his heft, his body? Nope. It's, he's like, I feel hunted by both. And I was like, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to read more about him because I do find him fascinating and what an important, person in the history of LA.
Yeah.
I mean, important. And I didn't even know. I thought he was a made up character because he was so Dr. Gonzo.
Sure.
I did not know that was a human being who was, in my mind, pretty important. So he, ends up writing his own stuff, and there is a trace of Hunter in Oscar's second book. He starts by calling him King and then turns him into Stonewall, and his name's Stonewall, and he, vaguely mentions a town in Colorado, which, that's where Hunter ended up landing.
Mm-hmm.
But he calls it Alpine. And I know in one of Oscar's last visit to the Rolling Stone office, he carved Zeta into the wall in the men's bathroom.
Okay.
Right. So there was a documentary done about him in 2018 on PBS. And he, in 1972, ended up demanding 50% of all the royalties from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, the book. And in later letters to Hunter Thompson, Oscar said, I feel cheated and I'm going to ask for some money. And as you know, counterculture legends don't pay off in cash. And in 1973, he wrote to Hunter, I'm still looking to you as my only serious white connection.
Wow.
So in June of 1974, Oscar Acosta gets on a friend's sailboat in Mazatlan, and he never comes back.
Oh no.
And Thompson goes to great lengths. He hired a private detective, got all of the rumors that people in Mexico were saying about Oscar. He wrote a piece for Rolling Stone. At first, it was titled "Requiem for a Crazed Heavyweight."
Hmm.
And then he later made it an anthology and he called it The Banshee Screams for Buffalo Meat.
Jeez.
So after Oscar disappeared in 74, there have been more than a dozen brown buffalo sightings, is what they call it. There's this wild story that he was running drugs in Coconut Grove and in Miami. And Rolling Stone moved to New York City in 1977. Hospital bills started arriving at the office for Oscar Zeta Acosta. Later on, we find out that the FBI and the LAPD had shadowed Oscar Acosta as part of a counterintelligence program that fueled speculation he had actually run afoul of the federal government.
Oh, okay.
I know. It's heartbreaking to think that. So the Banshee Screams for Buffalo Meat is what ended up being adapted to the screen for Where the Buffalo Roam, the 1980 film with Bill Murray and Peter Boyle. And it's it's fascinating to think that this larger than life character can just disappear after a fishing trip. And I have to say, I am really enamored of Hunter S. Thompson for paying for a private investigator and trying to find out what happened to his friend.
Yeah.
I mean, that shows, I think, that he felt he was a soulmate to him.
Yeah.
I really do love that. So Oscar's son Marco set out to get his dad's books that went out of print shortly after he passed away. He wants to get them republished. So the publisher, Vintage, agreed to do so if Hunter S. Thompson contributed an introduction, which he did.
Nice.
So anything that came out after 1989 remains in print. The foreword that Hunter Thompson wrote in Acosta's book, Revolt of the Cockroach People, he says, his birthday is not noted in any calendar, and his death is barely noticed. But the hole he left was a big one, and no one even tried to sew it up. Thompson said he still feels that gaping hole. For some horrible reason, I miss him. I miss him like I miss the smell of tear gas.
Wow.
That's a very Hunter Thompson quote. And I'm just going to say this. I'm still mad at Hunter Thompson for killing himself while talking to his wife on the phone. His son, his daughter-in-law, and his grandson were visiting his house. His wife was out grocery shopping, his wife Anita, and they were on the phone talking. She heard the clicks. He put the phone down and shot himself, and she didn't know what happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you why February and Mental Health Awareness Month is important to me. This was also done by a friend of mine before Hunter Thompson did this. His name is Drake Sather, and he was a brilliant comic, a brilliant comic. And I was managing a comedy club in Cincinnati, and he headlined, and I think he found an ear in me because he was headlining and I'm just going to be as rude as I can to my home state. He was too fucking smart for the room,
Hmm.
and I loved him, and he was smart and funny and weird and wore a black leather jacket, and even though he looked like a tough, was the squishiest, most brilliant creative soul I had met. I
Cool.
adored him, and we would talk every night after the show because I think he felt like he was just, eating a plateful every night. And he was, but he was
Hmm.
so good. And he moved to LA before I did. And he found some success as a writer and a showrunner. and was married and was, very sensitive and depressed and talking to his wife on the phone, and they had a fight and he shot himself.
Oh, God.
So that kind of thing is a permanent solution
right.
to a temporary problem. And I hope that if anyone listening to this is having thoughts where you don't care if you wake up or even something worse, that you will consider getting some help. And far be it from me to tell you what kind of help to get. All I can tell you is I am grateful that a few people who know me well enough and love me said, would you ever consider getting an antidepressant?
Yeah.
Because it has made a huge difference. And I'm not saying that's your path. I'm saying maybe talking to someone, maybe getting medical help.
Sure.
I don't know what the answer is for every person, but I hope that you will consider doing something for yourself, because selfishly, you're not just doing something for yourself, you're doing something for all of us, because I'm a firm believer if one of us is in pain, all of us are in pain, and we need each and every one of you here. So
absolutely,
I hope you don't do anything to make your path shorter. And I hope that you consider hanging around even when it's tough, because that is temporary and you don't need to have a permanent solution. You can get through anything. I know you can. I know we all can. So I'm just going to say, if you have a missing person or unsolved homicide you want us to cover, please give us a call at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837. You can email us at jttipsters@gmail.com. You can find us on any of the social media platforms, just the Tipsters Facebook page, at JT Tipsters on Instagram, at JT Tipsters Pod on Twitter. And Joshua reminded me that if you are having trouble and you want someone to talk to, please call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 988.
988.
Yeah, you can text to that.
Text or dial it.
Or dial. Thank you, Joshua. And remember, always, more cowbell.
If you would like to support this podcast and get early access and other cool murderous swag, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.